Good afternoon. As a person, as I mentioned, I believed in data-based decision making. In HRM, there's a trend for us to make decisions based on intuition or maybe personal experience. During the beginning of my academic career, I got a chance to go through a wonderful book by name Beyond HR. I hope many of you might have gone through that book. Beyond HR? Can you raise your hand? At least let me just try to take you to a workshop mode. Anybody who has gone through that book? Okay. Not even a single person? Okay, then how can I call it as a wonderful book? Okay, in this book, what they typically say, HR needs to move from a practice-oriented function to a decision-oriented function. Just like marketing getting evolved from sales, just like finance getting evolved from accounts, there's a necessity for us also for us, the HR professionals also to come up with a decision-based science. They call it as talentship. There, the preferences is on making decisions based on data analysis, logical frameworks. So one illustration they have given in that particular book. Assume that there are 10 HR professionals who are going to volunteer for a particular project from this classroom. The project is on identifying the best staffing strategy. At the end of the day, while these 10 people are going to come here and discuss about their strategies, there's a great probability that all 10 of them may be talking about totally different, completely distinguishable strategies. But if a marketing person or a finance person is given such a theme, there's a possibility for significant overlap or significant consensus because they have got decisions which are based on certain well-accepted logical framework. While I talk about storytelling, I prefer to associate it with intuition rather than a data-based decision making. The second one which I wanted to tell you, the sequencing of events. The theme, data to impact. As an HR analytic professional, I did a lot of work, hard work in analyzing the data. At the end of the day, I need to rely on some soft skills, using story to sell it to my people. If I need to rely on some soft skills, what is the value for the hard-earned or maybe the difficult hard work of data crunching? So whether the storytelling should come after analyzing the data and getting the results, or whether it should come somewhere before that. A theme which we are going to explore maybe within another 5 to 10 minutes. The last one, post-truth. How many of you heard this word? I believe this is becoming more common in today's context. This word is considered to be the word of year 2016. After two major events that happened during the last year, one is Brexit, second one is US president election. In the era of post-truth, we are expected to make decisions not based on facts. The debates, discussions, all of them happens from an emotional level. So that's what is expected to happen. Again, let me go back to the theme, storytelling, wherein emotions are expected to play a critical role rather than relying on facts. What am I supposed to do in that context? So I need to identify the value of storytelling in these contexts. Let me start by saying once again, I prefer to consider myself as a person with left brain. Why do I need to use these storytelling? So I'm going to look at the impact and its success. Let me just look at the way in which an analytic project is going to be designed. So who all are involved in an analytic project? I need some answers from the audience. Who all are going to be involved in determining the success of an analytic project? Domain expert, are you talking about people who are going to do the analysis? Or are you talking about? Okay, the person who is going to bring in the problem statement, let me call him as the partner with whom I'm going to work. Okay, that's one person. Second, data scientist, the people who are going to do the analysis. Other than that, the person who is going to sponsor it, maybe the partner, sometimes a partner may be a different person. So that's another stakeholder involved in the entire project. other than that? The IT professionals, okay, maybe in terms of collecting data, okay, bringing the data together. How many of you have participated already in some surveys? I hope all of you. In the entire organization, maybe engagement survey. The people, okay, that's the precise point I was looking at. Everybody who is giving data, they also have got a stake in it. Remember, I got an example on which I want to spend around 2 to 3 minutes at a later stage. While you are providing that engagement data, how serious are you? Can we get a better involvement from them, maybe through storytelling or actually to capture the true information? So some example which I will share at a later stage. So let me take you quickly through multiple stakeholders I have considered. The list may not be exhaustive. So I believe the data providers, the implementation team, and finally those who are affected by the decision. I'm just going to focus 2 or 3 of them. Let me first focus on the decision maker. As a data scientist, a person with a left brain, I may be able to give them some data. Sandhya was referring about maybe a prediction model to determine what is the probability for an employee to leave Citibank. Now consider this. That model may be having some amount of, let me say, it can explain attrition at an individual rate, maybe for 70% of cases, maybe for 35% of cases. If I'm trying to look at certain other possibilities, maybe with 75% probability, sometimes maybe with 91% probability, at the end of the day, a data scientist may be able to give that probability and that information. The final decision need to be taken by the decision maker. He is the one who is going to take the entire risk of implementing that decision or telling his team to implement it. The people who are involved in implementation, they may be already overloaded with work. In some organization, they may not be even able to say that they are not in a position to implement a new project. They may be finding a lot of difficulties in implementing them. I'm talking about the concerns of multiple stakeholders. The partner, or maybe the sponsor, the person who has given me a theme. Has he given me the theme because he is really believing in it? Or maybe because I'm pestering him, asking for an analytic project. Sometimes there may be a possibility that he might have given some theme which he is not at all believing in. He or she may be having his own concerns. They may be having certain other objectives. Maybe to reduce the number of manpower, maybe just to introduce some kind of an organizational change. So while I'm looking at from different stakeholders' perspective, everyone has got certain concern. Everybody may be having certain limitations. Now, as a person who is thinking from the left brain, I wanted to identify the best way by which my HR analytic project is going to succeed. How can I do that? How can I understand the concerns, the constraints of multiple people? Now, from that angle, it is important for me to get the required commitment from all the relevant stakeholders. While I'm trying to get that extra commitment, I should not use only the logic, but my logical mind is also telling me to go to the right side of my brain. Remember, we all have got some brain, whether it is going to be small or big, and while we have got a brain, it has got 2 sides too. It may be underdeveloped, but maybe from the left side of my brain, I can understand there may be a better way by which I can understand the concerns of people, I can understand and communicate to them so that their commitment is available. And there comes in the role of storytelling. And I would like to discuss about storytelling from a design thinking perspective. So maybe one more slide. After that, we are moving into complete workshop mode. We will take up multiple examples. I just want to introduce the theme. Design thinking perspective. There are different definitions for design thinking. Maybe the simplest one, which I find as more attractive, we need to make a decision from 3 different perspectives. One is from the people side. Second one is from, let me say, the business side. The third one is from technology side. Design thinking. It has got some background or some history into the design aspect. the area wherein all these three domains are overlapping. For example, we are able to address the concerns of people. Remember the concerns of multiple stakeholders which I mentioned in the previous slide? The area wherein there is a viable business solution, and also the arena wherein I have got technically or technologically feasible solution. So three different perspectives: technology, second one is coming from the business, the third one is coming from the people side. I am able to address the concerns from all the three angles, and where that overlap happens, there is a possibility for innovations from design thinking perspective. The definition I have given here is a very simple definition coming from 2015 HBR article: humanizing, simplifying. So while I'm looking at it from an HR analytic perspective, first I need to empathize with my multiple stakeholders, and that will help me to identify their needs. That's my definition. So while I'm starting an HR analytic project, I may be having different ways by which I can approach this HR analytic process. So what are the multiple options available with me? I am ideating many options. Then I'm choosing one draft idea and taking it to the relevant stakeholders. Are you happy with it? Is it okay for me to go ahead with it? So after some iterations, I'm going to finalize my HR analytic or maybe talent analytical project. Once I'm able to do it, after understanding the concerns of multiple stakeholders, I may be getting multiple options. For example, I may need to reduce the level of attrition in my organization. I may need to take a call. Do I need to withdraw, let me say, the way in which I am doing performance management in my organization, move into more of a development-oriented performance appraisal? So there are multiple options that may be coming in. Which one do they prefer? We'll continue the cycle, and in the process always remember, we are addressing the concerns of every stakeholder, and we are talking to multiple people. We are telling stories from our own side so that we can get commitment from them. There is also another important aspect happening. We are also listening to multiple stories. While I'm looking at it from design thinking perspective, storytelling is not only just limited to me. It is not that I will go and talk or try to convince multiple other stakeholders to improve the quality of the story which I am going to share with others. It is important for me to listen to the stories others are going to share with me. In other words, that will help me to understand their concerns. In other words, it will help me to simplify the entire approach. It will help me to humanize my entire analytical process. So this is just to introduce from the design thinking perspective. The additional questions I will take, we will get into it after some more time. So let me share with you the context. So let me start with the first case. Before starting every story, it is important for us to understand the context. Whom am I addressing? If I'm talking about an audience like this, I'm going to present my analytical report or maybe whatever I have found. I need to understand, are there people with different agenda in this classroom? Or maybe in this particular room? How do I need to piece the idea? And while I'm looking at it from a design thinking perspective, how do I need to build a story so that some of the genuine concerns of people with lesser power are also incorporated into the data I'm going to share with them? So there are a lot of concerns coming in. Let me just get into the first case. Now onwards, you are going to take over. Let me give you the context. A manpower consulting firm, which typically supply people, they are about to decide their pricing policy for year 2017. So this is a data set they have provided. Are you happy with this presentation? Are you able to make any sense out of it? What all things are you able to identify at least at this stage? How many organizations are there? 5 different organizations. Anything about their background? Here you don't need to worry about which roles are they selecting people into. So this is one way by which they have presented the data. Now what we are going to look at, the way by which we can improve the quality of the data visualization. And after that I will also tell you how to develop a story through the same data set. What is the improvement that happened while I move to this slide? I remove the color. Other than that, is there any extra value coming in? Descending order, can you please explain a little more? Is that what's happening? Only the color got changed. It's slightly different. whether the change in color is helping you to understand something different. Okay, 3 kinds of talent. Let me just help you to understand it because sometimes the entire data may not be that visible to you. So this one refers to organization A, organization B, organization C, organization D and E. The data set is for this organization, we have got data sets for around 7 years. The way in which they used to charge their clients. So here what you can see, they started with somewhere around 45 days of salary as their consulting fee while they are providing a person. It has gone up to 60 and then it is coming down. So what I want you to identify from the second presentation rather than what Call in her book is suggesting, the change in color is helping us to understand at what stage the prices started to go down. In other words, both organizations have started their operations in 2010. The next piece of information, while the new organization like C has come in, there is a drop in price. That's the second piece of information. Now the way in which we need to present it, first let me tell you how to choose a chart. We don't have enough time on data visualization, but rather than that, my focus is going to be on story. Previously, we had seen those bar charts. Right now, we are going into a line graph. Are you able to find some more meaning in this one? The same data set, a different kind of visualization. Any new piece of information you are able to gather? Okay, A and B are following each other. In other words, who is the price leader? A. B always prefer to follow A slightly at a lower level, maybe around 3 to 5 days of difference in terms of their placement charges. Now, let me present it as a story by using the same data sets. So, we were discussing about improving the data visualization. So, step by step, 2010, 2 organizations have identified a niche area wherein there are not many people who are supplying the required manpower. So, 2 of them. So, what happened till 2010 to 2011, the amount they were charging the consultants or maybe the client organizations, it has gone up. One more thing which one of my friend has clearly identified, B always follow A, that's the trend. Now, the last piece of information. Look at this chart. With the entry of C, the price started to follow. But for every organization, during the initial years, there is an increase in price. But since the competition is increasing, what is happening in terms of pricing? The pricing is coming down. Now, remember it's not a high-end job for a data scientist. It can be done even in Excel. Somebody at an entry level of analytics can do the same. But look at the way in which the data is presented now from what I have shown you in the beginning. For the decision maker, it is much more easy to take a call regarding the pricing policy for 2017. So what will you suggest? The average price is around 24. Now, this is on data visualization. Now, remember, whichever organization you are representing, with this kind of data visualization, you will be able to communicate the story better. Just compare it between the previous one and the last one. So let me quickly move to the next one. This is a project which we are involved in. Some important messages which I wanted to share with you, especially in terms of telling a story. All people who are involved in a talent analytic project, we are highly passionate about the work which we are done. In this study, we gathered around 82 different variables. We also conducted multiple interviews, and sometimes there may be a tendency for us to share what all we have done with the respective stakeholder or the decision maker. But we may be overloading with data. They may not be able to make any decision. So what is really required? It is like searching for pearls, and remember, while you search maybe for thousands of oysters, you may get 1 or 2 pearls. Rather than sharing the entire data with them, share them what is really relevant for them. So while I look at all the data which I have presented or shared with you, there comes in some important data. What explains the attrition rate in that organization? 28% of the entire attrition is explained through importance in job security, around 5% through affective commitment. In this context, the organization wanted us to be there as a consultant because they wanted to identify the reasons for attrition, and they felt it is mainly due to low salary level. They have already appointed another consultant who has given their recommendations, and they were about to implement it if we are going to give similar kind of a suggestion. Pay is the real reason or the root cause for attrition, and here comes in the next challenge for us. At the end of our analysis, we found satisfaction with pay was explaining attrition only in one designation. Now remember, while you do analytic projects, there's a possibility that your project may not give you the results you are expecting. That also tells you the necessity to get into the next approach, the decision science model. Let me say the iterations. Sometimes you may need to pitch in for another HR analytic project. And in the process, there will be a necessity to tell them the story. Remember, this particular presentation was happening with the sponsor sitting in the same room, the director board members sitting in the same room. All of them were listening to us. People have got different agenda. How are you going to present the data? What kind of stories are you going to share? Remember, I'm referring to the stories which are coming from the left side of the brain so that organization may take up the right call. If the concern is related to importance given to the job security, what do you want to do? At a later stage, the entire project is getting turned over to a project on performance orientation in the firm, which has changed multiple HR policies in this firm. The next story was related to an engagement study which we have conducted. Leader in Indian market. We want to know which tool available in the market can predict the performance of employees. In other words, while the engagement score is high on an engagement tool shared by a particular consultant, I will also show you the tools which we have used in the study. The first tool which we have used was coming from Gallup, second one Hewitt, then the single question from Great Place to Work. We had the tools recommended by academicians. We also have some other indicators. And can you just guess which one was able to explain performance in a better manner? At the end of the day, remember, a lot of consultants used to claim higher the engagement score, higher is expected to be the performance levels. Can you guess which one will be able to predict? None of them. The reason, stories which we need to share at another level. The people who are sharing data with us. Our question was slightly on a larger side, around 70 questions. And in this organization, the performance of the superiors were linked to the engagement level of subordinates. As a result, there was a mindset. The previous panel was discussing about a mindset among the people who are providing data. It is important for us to touch 80% levels. Now, with that concern, let me go back to the design thinking perspective. The data they have given were not real. We have gathered information on performance from multiple indicators. One is the objective data. Second one is supervisor's rating. The rating for the last 3 years. All of them we tried to check it up, but there was no clear-cut indication from any of those studies, mainly because of the reason which I mentioned, the mindset of people are designed in that manner. Now think it from another angle. If the HR director of your organization has got a target, you need to come into the top 10 in some of the surveys. What will happen to the data that is provided by the concerned people? Now, their concerns, the concerns of sponsors, now these are, I cannot address this issue only by using number. I need to sit with them, or maybe every analytics person needs to sit with them, understand their concerns, then we need to come up with multiple ways. Then the next time what we have done, the slide is not there, we have used 5 different emoticons, which they may need to use on an alternative basis, sometimes before they log into their entire system. So there are multiple ways by which we can also address it. That was the second case. The third case. The fourth case was related to Uber. The first thing which is already happened, Uber started to gather information about driver behavior using the same mobile phone. So previously they used to rate the performance of drivers using the 5 stars, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, which you typically give. And what is the average you have observed with every driver? Have you seen anyone with less than 4? Okay, none with less than 4. I have seen some of the Uber's policies that people with less than a particular level are already weed off, or they are given training and so on. Now that's one aspect. Second, there are a lot of complaints coming about the drivers. Are they speeding up, or they applying brake? So using the mobile phone, they started to gather information about the driving behaviors of the driver or of the people. So that's at one level. Then the hypothetical situation. In today's context, there are certain badges which are available, and they have got 4 different sensors. Now I'm moving into the hypothetical scenario. The first situation talks about, actually one of the sensor is just to know what am I speaking to the person who is sitting next to me. Or in other words, if the driver is going to wear that badge in a cab, it is possible for you to listen to every word they are going to say. There may be a camera in it, through which we can gauge maybe the facial expressions of other people if there is a requirement coming in. Remember, these kinds of badges are not designed for a Uber driver. These are typically the one that is used in IT or multiple organizations right now. And remember, the moment you are entering into it, while you shout at maybe your subordinate, or you may be complaining about the superior with your colleague, it is possible for the organization to capture all that data. And what I have wanted to present as a hypothetical scenario, while Uber is having a shared cab, remember, you don't know who all are going to share the same cab with you. Now, they wanted to use this kind of a device, which will also capture additional information like it has got a Bluetooth into it, various other signals they can capture and so on. So, if you want to introduce such a system, especially while for the drivers you are in charge of a shared cab, what all stories you need to create. So, whom all you may need to address, who all may be having concerns in this case? Can you at least identify that much? Driver, passengers. Let us try to talk about the possible stories that can convince a passenger. They may not be bothering, or they are not worried about driver wearing such a particular badge. In which, what kind of a story we need to create so that we will get acceptance from a passenger? Safety. One word. Okay, you don't even need to create a story, but remember, you don't know who is going to travel with you. If we want to intervene, take certain steps, it is important for the driver to wear such a thing. What about the driver? How will you convince him? Maybe in terms of efficiency, you can use the same safety logic with the driver. Rewards. Sometimes you may be able to say, look, if you are going to make those 5 stars more stricter, your entire score may go down. But rather we want to give you an alternative feedback. So the way in which we are going to address it. So look at that multiple stories, at least 3 stories you have created right now. Stories. Remember, I'm not a right brain person. It is very difficult for me to tell great stories. But even from a logical mind, if you understand the reason to tell stories and how it is going to add value to the relevant stakeholders and for the organization, we will be able to manage it better. So with that, thank you very much. Thanks a lot.